Welcome back to In Focus. One of the contentious dividing issues between the left and the right is the crime epidemic ravaging the nation. On the right, we hold the radical, extreme position that criminals should be locked up. And the more criminals that stay locked up, the less crime there will be in the streets. That's our tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. But on the left, such an idea is racist and bigoted and hateful. Indeed, violent criminals are punished too harshly. They should be given another chance, and another chance, and another chance. Criminals deserve to be out in society where they can continue to victimize men, women, and children alike, even if they commit crimes over and over and over again. Locking them away to where they can't repeat their offenses will not put a dent in America's crime problem, says the left. Is that so? Let's observe a few headlines as of late and see if we can come up with a feasible solution so that such headlines do not need to be ran so frequently. Let's start with this man, 49-year-old Alexander Wright. Wright has most recently been accused of beating up a subway janitor in the Bronx who tried to intervene when he was harassing innocent civilians on the subway. Over the summer, Wright was released from Rikers Island for another violent crime. This after last summer, he was allegedly caught on security camera randomly sucker punching an Asian woman in Chinatown. You can see it right here. Pretty sure this is what the left would call a hate crime. He also stands accused of throwing hot coffee on 2 traffic agents last year in Midtown. And he has been arrested 40 times. 42 in total now for other alleged assaults, disorderly conduct, larceny, and criminal possession of drugs. 42 times this man has been arrested, many times for directly beating up innocent people. And the system has repeatedly let him back out on the streets. I wonder if we kept him in jail, if his crimes would diminish, would cease. Interesting. Here's another. 48-year-old Aaron Folk can be seen on camera right here beating 66-year-old Rodney Peterman with a metal pole, striking him over the head several times. The victim later died in the hospital after this attack. And this crime happened 8 days after Folk was released by a judge on a felony harassment charge for threatening to kill a local security guard. Before releasing him, the judge simply instructed Folk not to commit any more crimes. How helpful. One more, shall we? This is not so much violent as it is just absurd to fathom. Meet Michelle McKelly, self-described professional booster. McKelly has been arrested 100 times for shoplifting and released without bail over and over and over again. She was arrested in July, but not without putting up a fight. Police say she scratched, kicked, and bit and spit at police officers during her arrest. Murder after being released on a felony charge. 40+ arrests after a string of assaults, and 100 arrests for shoplifting. I wonder if we kept those people in jail, if those crimes they would not be able to commit. What an interesting theory. Let me put my tinfoil hat on for that one. Maybe Alexander Wright would not be able to beat up innocent people if he stayed in prison. Maybe McKelly would not be able to rob everyone blind if she was kept in prison. Maybe Aaron Folk would not be able to kill people if he was not let go after committing a felony crime. It's an interesting concept. I wonder what the left solution is, though. Oh, let them all roam free. Give them another chance after 100 times. Give me a break. Joining me now, former New Jersey Police Lieutenant and U.S. Navy officer, Lieutenant Steve Rogers, a.k.a. Captain America. Captain America, thank you for joining me. I don't know if you join with me in this crazy conspiracy that criminals who commit crimes several dozen times, 100 times, should just be kept in prison so they can't repeat their offenses.
Well, I certainly agree with you. And in your opening, you had asked a question, well, what can we do to curb this violence? There are a few things we could do. Number one, we need to make sure that through the elective process, we remove from office every DA, every elected official, and every judge that is putting these individuals back out on the street. That's number one. Number two, I've said a long time ago, once those vicious criminals get into the neighborhoods of the very people who are releasing them, I'm talking about the neighborhoods of politicians, of judges, of DAs that are crying, well, they fell on their head when they were 2 years old, so all these years later, we have to understand that. Once the crime enters into their neighborhoods, you're going to see things change quickly. You're absolutely right. The only solution to the problem is, at this point, keep them locked up. But you need people who are elected to office and in charge that will keep them locked up.
Right, but you have all these Soros-backed prosecutors, these woke DAs, who are just hell-bent on this vice of compassion. They call it virtue signaling when they say we need to be compassionate on these people, but really it's just vice. We're talking about people who beat innocent civilians up time and again, and they're let back out onto the streets with no mental assessment, no mental therapy or recovery or anything like that. And what do you know? They beat up more people. You saw Alexander Wright just sucker punch that Asian woman who was simply walking down the street. It's terrible what we're doing to these cities and these neighborhoods, letting these violent dirtbags roam free after committing crimes over and over again. Do you know how bad it's getting? It's getting so bad, Lieutenant Rogers, that a store in Beverly Hills, California is banning their customers from wearing masks. No more masks, not because of COVID, not because of COVID. This is not a deep south type of place. This is Beverly Hills, but because of robbers using it to conceal their identity so much, so frequently, that now liberal areas are saying, no more masks, please, we can't take it anymore.
Well, Addison, how about this one? In New Jersey, my wife and I had gone to a couple of these big, huge stores that everyone knows, clothing stores, etc. And we know some supervisors there, and they've told us that they are no longer going to go after shoplifters. People are walking out with tens of thousands of dollars in clothes and jewelry. They're just not going to challenge them anymore because the good guys, in their eyes, end up losing and the bad guys win. But the fact of the matter is, we can reverse the tide. Again, we got to get people in office that are going to do what must be done to protect the people and especially to back the police. I've talked to a lot of Democrats, I mean a lot of them. They're scratching their heads and they're saying, you know what, it's about time we turn the tide in this country. And that's the way we can do it. People need to arm themselves. If they could legally carry weapons, I suggest they go for firearms permits. If they can't, get yourself pepper spray, strongest you could get, very, very effective. What bothers me in some of those videos, Addison, is watching people just sit around and see the victims fall to the floor and no one do anything. Look, I'm the first to say, you know, don't get yourself in a situation where your life is in danger. Well, your life is in danger. That individual may turn on you after they beat the living daylights out of that victim. Sometimes you got to take the risk, have the courage to do what must be done to protect yourself and others.
Yeah, and I've made the same point. We've seen far too many crimes committed on camera, someone beating up an innocent woman, and people just sit there and they don't do anything about it. And oftentimes, I want to play this clip. I'll speak over it, but you've got to see this 7-Eleven flash mob going into this convenience store. I mean, by the dozens. I think at one point, police said there were about 100 people in the store at once. They just raided this 7-Eleven, stole everything inside, and you have people outside filming and cheering, and I'm assuming a lot of people just joined in on the fun. They said, oh, hey, I can go get some free cigarettes, some free snacks and drinks. Why not? Look at all those people in there. There was a cashier, but he was obviously scared for his life, so he ran off. They're climbing over the counter. They're just chucking all the merchandise everywhere. And I think a clip like this not only speaks to cowardice of bystanders and people who probably have just joined in. But a clip like this, it's so many young people, Lieutenant Rogers. It makes me ask, where are the parents? Where are the parents of these young people? How are they raised? I suspect that these kids did not have a great moral upbringing.
Well, you know, it may be the parents too that have not had that moral upbringing, as you say.
Yeah.
But I get back to this point. A couple of weeks ago, there were CEOs in New York City, for example, that met with the mayor to talk about the spike in crime. Why? Unfortunately, some of their employees and some of their execs were killed, were thrown off subway platforms, were mugged or killed, etc., sadly to say. But why does it take that? When the rich get affected by crime, when the profit line gets affected by crime, when the jobs get affected by crime, and the CEO is worried about the color green instead of the color of blood, red, flowing on the streets of that city. So another solution to the problem is don't shop there, don't go there, don't visit there. In fact, I've said a long time ago, the Department of Homeland Security needs to put out a public safety advisory regarding the city of New York and warn people not to go. It's too dangerous. Now, why do I say that? That's going to be a wake-up call for a lot of people, and you'll see some action taken because in their eyes, Addison said, as I said, it's the color green that they're concerned about, not the color red. Well, we're concerned about the color red, the blood of people from all walks of life. We need to do what we must do to protect them.
You cannot look at the crime that we're seeing in major American cities today, Lieutenant Rogers, and tell me that we have an over-incarceration problem. We absolutely 100% have an under-incarceration problem. When 100 people take over a store and just rob it blind, 100+ people, and when men can go out and commit dozens upon dozens of assaults and just be processed and let back out into the streets, we have an under-incarceration problem. Lieutenant Steve Rogers, thank you so much for joining the show. Always a pleasure to have you on.
My pleasure, and Captain America, deboarding the ship.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you next time.